G'day there everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hooked on Sport. This is the place to be for your regular insight into what's making news and what should be making news on the playing fields around Adelaide and beyond. We've just had the long weekend, the sun's out, and there's lots to talk about from the elite to the grassroots. And to lead us on this journey through the most remarkable SA sporting yarns of the week is this state's undoubted local sport expert, Ben Hook. G'day, Hooky.
Wallace, how you going? Hey, you just made a point about it being in the aftermath of the long weekend here in Adelaide. Of course, Monday was a public holiday. It was a public holiday in Queensland and New South Wales as well. I've got a question for you. Why would Cricket Australia have not decided to schedule the Sheffield Shield, which has started today, Tuesday, yesterday? Why wouldn't they start day one? They've got every Australian player available to be playing for them. They could have made this an amazing promotion on the public holiday Monday for kids, free entry, take it to the communities. It's almost like Cricket Australia have just given up on promoting the Sheffield Shield. This was an absolute no-brainer to have this starting in those three states on those public holidays, and instead they've all started on the Tuesday when everyone's back at work. I know kids are still on school holiday, certainly here in Adelaide, but that makes no sense to me at all. Cricket Australia had an absolutely golden opportunity with all of its international players to be playing in front of young kids yesterday, and they completely muffed it. No imagination at all.
It's a fair point you make, Hooky. Who is this Premiership whisperer you speak of?
Yeah, her name is Sarah Lowe. She has the Midas touch when it comes to premierships here in South Australia. She's the captain of the Kensington Cricket Club. She's a big personality. I like her. She's got a sharp tongue. She's pretty witty. I reckon she would dish out a fair share of sledging out in the field. Obviously, I've never played a women's game, so I don't really know. She has actually played a handful of games for South Australia. She last played in 2018. She's 31 now. She'll be 32 early next year. But she's still the most influential player in Premier cricket, and that's quite something when you get a grasp of the development that we've seen in women's cricket over the last 5 or 6 years. Kensington have won the last 3 flags, and she was, I reckon, the linchpin in all 3. In 21-22, they played against Glenelg, and she was player of the match. She was really good with ball and made a really important 70-odd with the bat. In 22-23, they beat Adelaide. She made 50 runs and took a wicket, but she absolutely throttled the life out of the Adelaide chase. She just gave them no possibility to be able to chase down the total whatsoever. And then last year they played West Torrens and they set a pretty poor target of around about 134, I think it was, to win. She missed out with the bat. She came on with the ball. She ended up bowling the last over of the match with the score 9 down. They needed 3 to win. And, of course, she took a wicket without another run being scored and led her team to another premiership. I bring her up because on Sunday she was at it again. They played against Adelaide. She scored 88, took 4 for her, including 3 wickets and 2 runouts in the final over when they were well in danger of going down. They've won that game by 7 runs. So they've won 5 premierships, Kensington. She's played in all 5 of them. That's 5 premierships in 11 seasons. They're chasing the competition record this year of 4 in a row. I certainly wouldn't put it past them. Port Adelaide did that in 03-04. But Sarah Lowe, she is just one of those, those people who just find ways of winning. I was trying to think who I was probably identifying with. I don't want to sort of talk in animals, but she's got a bit of a Winx quality about her, Just it doesn't matter who she's up against. She'll find a way of being that little bit better. Kensington aren't the most talented team in the competition, I don't think, by a long shot. But Sarah Lowe just has this capacity to lead them in a manner that allows them all to walk taller. She is the premiership whisperer in South Australian cricket. There's obviously some other people who make a massive contribution at Kensington as well. Their coach is Jamie Pinelli, an old adversary of mine in that competition. But Sarah Lowe, just put her down, the premiership whisperer in South Australian cricket.
Oh, brilliant. Now, sticking with cricket, the state spinning siblings. Can you tell us about them?
I do have a little bit of a special place in my heart for these 2 kids. And the reason being, Wallace, is because I used to live next door to their mum when we were both growing up as little kids. We lived in Kernelite Gardens, and their mum, Naomi Patocki, now Naomi Bowering, has had 2 kids called Will and Lucy Bowering. Will, the boy, is a leg spinner. He's 22 years of age, so he's not a boy, he's a man. Bowls leg spin. He was in the men's team of the year last year in South Australian Premier Cricket. Lucy is the little sister. She's 20. She bowls off spinners. She was in the women's team of the year last year. So that's the 23-24. First time ever brother and sister have been in the same team in the same year. Will took 34 wickets at 15 last year to be second overall on the wicket takers list. He took 8 wickets at 12 in T20. So, I mean, those averages are just incredible for spin bowlers. Well, Lucy was arguably even better. She took 22 wickets at 14 to finish fourth in the women's long form competition, which is the 50 over games, and 6 wickets at 15 in the T20 competition. Look, spin bowling tends to be the type of craft that takes a little bit longer for young people to develop. But I reckon in the next 5 or 6 years, you could see Will Bowering as the lead spin bowler for South Australia and Lucy Bowering as the lead spin bowler for South Australia, one in the men's team, one in the women's team. They're an incredible story, and I look forward to watching them continue to grow.
Fascinating, Hooky. Now, you've got a heartwarming story for a family that's endured a very tough year.
Yeah, we've had a chat about cricket. I do want to just turn my attention to footy. I know the season's well and truly behind us, but I thought there was a wonderful story about the Stevens family. We all know the tragedy has surrounded the family of the Police Commissioner, Grant Stevens, who lost his son, Charlie, in a terrible road. You can't say accident because someone has been charged for the offence of clipping him in his car while he was a pedestrian. We feel desperately sorry for what Grant and Emma and that entire family has had to go through. Even last week, they were dealing with victim impact statements as the charges continue to progress through the courts for the young man that is accused. But there was one little moment for that family to smile on Friday night. Wallace, I was at the Unley Mercedes Jets Footy Club presentation night. Josh Stevens, he's the son of Grant Stevens, older than Charlie. He won the club best and fairest at reserves level, but he also won the association best and fairest. And he won it in pretty emphatic style too. He's a pretty handy footballer for a reserves level competition. So I just thought it was great that you could just tell how much it meant to Grant and how much it meant to Josh to be part of that presentation. Look, nothing will ever replace Charlie. Of course, we get that, and that will be an ongoing issue that family will deal with. But I just thought it was wonderful to see a lovely smile on Grant's face and a lovely smile on Josh's face after that little bit of personal success.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Hooky. Now, last week you highlighted 2 elite SA golfers. One of them had success this week.
Yeah, she is an absolute phenom. 17-year-old. Her name is Raegan Denton. I think she's still going to Henley High School. I reckon she is destined for a career on the professional tour. Wallace, I just had a look this morning. She's now ranked 347th in amateur golf in the world. Now, that's amazing when you consider that she is playing mostly junior events, not a lot of open amateur events. So to be at number 347 across the whole globe as just a 17-year-old is quite incredible. You can see where she's heading. She got to 347 on the basis of the fact that she won the Jack Newton Junior International last week. Now, that is a pretty serious tournament. Kids come from all around Australia to participate in it. She won it by 4 strokes, and the third place getter was a further 4 strokes back. So it was one of her most emphatic performances. Fortnight before, she was a semi-finalist in the South Australian Amateur, and a couple of weeks before that, she won the Queensland Amateur as well. Her last 10 events, she's finished 6 times in the top 10. So she is just someone that we're going to be really excited to see in the future, Wallace. I mean, we could. I tell you what I'll do. I'll flag this. We're going to talk at some other time about the concept of playing another tournament either side of LIV, and you can invite some amateurs and some, broaden it out. Get the LIV players who want to maybe play a warm-up tournament. Well, Raegan Denton would give. I mean, she's obviously not going to compete with the men at the absolute top end of town, but she would feel very comfortable in that space, in that sort of an event, a bit like the WebEx series that have been mixed events for women and men right around Australia. So, yeah, keep an eye out for Raegan Denton. She won the Jack Newton Junior International last week, and I guarantee you she is going to win a lot more tournaments. We're going to see a hell of a lot more of her. Yeah,
that was certainly a good pick you put forward last week, Hooky. We've got an Olympian from another country coming to spend time in Adelaide.
If you're a basketball fan, you probably think that the biggest star recruit in South Australian sport this year is Adelaide 36, Montrezl Harrell. Well, I reckon I might have one over and above that. She's actually being unveiled this afternoon, Wallace, by the Adelaide Fire. That's our team in the Hockey One National Hockey League competition. Her name is Margot van Geffen. 265 test years played for the Netherlands. She only lost 13 of them. Can you imagine that, playing 265 games and only losing 13? So she comes from an incredible winning culture. She's a 3-time Olympian, went gold, silver, and gold. She missed selection stunningly. She's in her mid-30s now, so they just decided to go a little bit younger, but she missed selection for the 2024 Paris Games. So she's going to be playing for the Fire this year. She's given up a fair bit. She can't play in the Netherlands National League competition for whatever reason. In World Hockey, they determined that these players are only allowed to play one competition per season. It just sort of fell in place. She was about to be evicted from her home that she rents because the owners have decided to sell it. She thought, well, if I'm going to move, I may as well move to Australia. And Adelaide were lucky enough to sign her up. She is going to be a huge influence. They've got a number of internationals, the Adelaide Fire women. The men will rely a little bit more on local talent, led by a really exciting youngster called Jack Holland. Their first game is Friday night. They're at home against Melbourne. And if you've even got a loose interest in hockey, but you want to see an absolute superstar of the game, get out to Mate Stadium at Jeps Cross this Friday night, pay your cash, and have a look at Margot van Geffen. You're going to play with a couple of star locals. Hattie Shan to be playing. She's a hockey-roo, former hockey-roo. Holly Evans will be there. Cheryl and Shorty Cass as well. They're a good team, but they're going to be made a heck of a lot better by Margot van Geffen. Not many people watch a lot of hockey, I don't think, outside of the Olympics, but I reckon there's a reason to do so this year.
It sounds like a great suggestion. I think the weather is warming up the back end of this week as well. You've got an insight in regards to one of the most popular sports and their regional input.
All South Australia have named both their state sides men's lawn bowls team and their women's lawn bowls team. And you would not believe the amount of men and women who come into this team straight out of the country regions. I'm blown away by this. I've always noticed it with the women, and the men have really started to emerge as filling up, not a majority, but certainly over and above what you would regard as population ratio. Let me just share with you. I'll go through. I've just mixed them up, women, men, but I just want to give you a bit of an indication. There might even be one or two more, because a lot of the players that I'm about to list are actually credited as their city club because they've moved to Adelaide and playing in the Premier competition here. But I've managed to work out most of them and where they're originally from. But there could be a couple more that have been here for a long time, and it's a little bit harder to research. So let me just share with you this. 24 members of the team. Here's 12 of them that I can confirm. Grace Maloney is from Arthurton. Will McFarlane is playing with Wallaroo. Gavin Forbes is from Nuriutpa. Ben Bowman is from Wasleys. Wasleys, really interesting story, Wallace. That was the club that was really badly hit from the Pinery Fire up there in the mid-north, and then they won a premiership about 2 years later. Well, Ben Bowman was a member of that team. Nathan Black, firmly entrenched as one of the stars of the South Australian and Australian teams these days, but he grew up in Port Germain. Kate Argent-Bowden originates from Anguston. So does Jono Voigt. He's an Anguston boy. Debbie Dennis is from Port Broughton. Sharon Kavanagh from Moonta. Kath Greenslade from Riverton. I haven't finished yet. Renata Callista is from Goolwa, and Katrina Green is from Kapunda. Now, I was just doing the maths. I reckon Adelaide has about somewhere between 77 and 80% of the South Australian population, so that 50% confirmed are coming from the regional areas. When you consider that probably the regional turf, the regional rinks aren't as pure as what you see here in Adelaide amongst the top-end clubs like Holdfast and West Lakes and Grange. So I just think that is amazing that 12 of the 24 members of the South Australian state sides lawn bowls team, men and women, are going to come from country regions. What an incredible story that is.
Hooky, fascinating. Another great episode.
No, thank you, Wallace. I'll tell you what, I feel like the October long weekend can be a little bit of a black hole in sport, probably why I made the point about the Sheffield Shield at the start of this show. Two things. One, someone is going to find a reason to play sport on the October long weekend and take it over. It is absolutely ripe for the picking right now. Someone with a smart brain should be putting some top-end sport on the October long weekend. And point number two, we get into it. We've got tennis, we've got cricket, we've got everything going on around the summer sports next week. Baseball, a favourite of yours as well, Wallace. I'm rubbing my hands together. We're going to have so much to talk about next week. We'll catch you then.
Another episode of Hooked on Sport in the bag. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And if you enjoy the podcast, let your mates know. Just search Hooked on Sport to find us. And if you've got a local sporting story to share with Ben, send us a message via our socials or by email, hookedonsportpodcast@gmail.com. Hooked on Sport is produced by Wallace Long at C2M and music by Ben Watson at Zest Entertainment.